What is up, everybody? Another day, another Aiyuk issue at hand. The 49ers did sign somebody new. They still have a little over 20 million to spend. What should they do with that money? And which players are going to get better this year? Which players are going to get worse? We're going to talk about those things plus more, and we're going to do it all next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And it's Monday night, which means I got my guy Coach in the building. What's up, Coach?
What up, boy? How you doing, man? Just sitting here right now, just trying to make sense of more news, man. I mean, I hope we better get used to it, because in a couple of weeks we are going to get nothing. So we better get our last few drops of good news, pause. So I'm excited about it, man. Ready to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, we did get some news, kind of surprising news. It's interesting because we always do the topics. We start talking about topics the day before. But one of the topics that I was going to talk about was how they should spend the remainder of their money. Now, not that they made a big signing today, but they already showed us that they plan on spending some of this money available to them, this newfound money. And they went and signed Logan Thomas, who has been in your backyard the last few years playing for Washington and the Commanders. So what do you think about this signing overall?
I mean, Logan Thomas is a local kid, quarterback. He was a quarterback, got switched to tight end. I believe Logan Thomas is a Tidewater kid, played at Virginia Tech. He's a tough kid. He is a ball player. Being able to switch from quarterback to another position and sustain yourself as a real viable position in the NFL is nothing to sneeze at. But he is going to be, I think that for the role that he's going to be acquired in, I do believe that it's going to be something good for the 49ers. Right now, we've talked about it for quite some time, but we struggled to find somebody past George Kittle, man. It's been hard. And for what it's worth, we need somebody that's actually had starting experience under their belt, which I'm happy about as well. Logan Thomas, is it Logan Thomas?
Logan Thomas here.
Yeah, Logan Thomas is somebody who's actually been able to play for the Washington Commanders and be viable. Not in anything that necessarily tips the scales, but he's definitely going to be somebody that's going to be a solid, good all-around inline blocking tight end for us, and he can get out and make things happen in the pass game. So I'm excited about the acquisition. I think that it's going to be able to help us. We actually get another tight end that can not only raise the floor to see what we have in Jalen Graham, that is, and Cam Latu, and Mason Pline.
Oh, you mean Willis. Braden Willis.
Yeah, Braden Willis. Yeah, and Mason Pline. But we're going to be able to see what we have out of them. But to be honest, if you think about it, in quite some time, we've always been kind of going back and forth on the type of tight ends that we brought in. We've either gone, one side of the spectrum on the Ross Dwelley side of things, or Jordan Reed, or we've gone on the complete other side of the spectrum where we've gone Cam Latu and Charlie Warner. So right now, I feel like it is an uptick because it's going to be different from what we've seen over the past couple of years. He has starting experience under his belt. He's not just and he's a melding of both. He's a melding of basically what we get out of George Kittle, which is somebody that can be decent to adequate, which George Kittle is not decent in the run game. He's great, but we have somebody that can actually be relied on in the run game, blocking, and can actually be relied on in the passing game. So I think it's a solid move. Nothing to write home about, nothing crazy, but solid.
Yeah, I mean, this is the type of move at tight end I was hoping they would make. I mean, there was a couple of veteran tight ends that I had mentioned, hoping that they would sign. Logan Thomas was actually not on my radar, but I love the signing. It makes perfect sense. Now, a couple people have dropped it in the chat, and I think I agree with them. This probably spells the end for Latu, right? I mean, he's got to do something special to make this roster at this point, in my opinion.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, right now, they've given him as many opportunities as he can have as for what he's given them. You know, usually you kind of have an ebb and a flow of a player where, you know, you have a Javon Kinlaw, you have a Jalen Hurd, where it's like, all right, we see the upside, but his body's not there yet. You know what I'm saying? We see the upside, or he's got nagging injuries, or we see the upside, but you know, we got some mental issues, you know. That's all of those things that we've seen with many rookies and young players that have tried to get their act together with the 49ers.
You know what I love about it?
Hasn't given us anything, man.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't.
And for John, one thing that I will say about this is why, if I'm Cam Latu, I'm worried, is that one thing the Niners do make sure of is that they take care of their players. Even if a guy is doing bad, they will, you know, circle the wagons around their guy. But every now and then, when John Lynch comes out and says, like, hey, this guy may not even have made the team if he wasn't injured. Basically, like, he injured his way onto injury reserve that, you know, basically granted him clemency for a year. And then they go get this guy, you know, the writing's on the wall, man.
Well, it's not often that you have a guy that you pick in round 3 that wouldn't have made your roster as a rookie. I mean, if you're a top 3 round pick, unless you do something off the field or you have a catastrophic injury, you're basically a lock to make a team. And the 49ers literally weren't going to keep him had he not gotten injured. So we'll see what he can do in training camp this year. He will get a chance, but it's going to be pretty tough for him to make the team, I think, with Pline in house and now Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas, what I love about him, 6'6", really good pass catcher. I mean, this is the perfect combination to go with George Kittle. And also, I mean, in a roundabout way, not that I expect Aiyuk, and that'll be the next topic, but not that I expect Aiyuk to not be here. But if he's not, they sure are finding an interesting way to fill some of the roles that he does, whether it's through Pearsall, whether it's through Cowing, now adding Logan Thomas. They're making sure that they're insulating this pass catching room one way or another. And Logan Thomas, I think, is a great addition.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think the move is something that it's a plus move because it's not like a piece, but it's something where you could see it happening you know, immediately, right? I feel like this is a move where you're going to see this on the field immediately. We've been looking for this is a sneaky get. I like this move. I really do. We've been looking for another tight end to help George out. I mean, if you really want to be honest, man, without George, we're just not special at the position at all. Not even close. So for us to be able to have somebody to bring more, I mean, really the floor on tight ends for the 49ers is, I mean, the ceiling on backup tight ends for the 49ers is Ross Dwelly. He's the most consistent guy that we've had that actually stayed with the team and had a role. And Charlie Warner. So, I mean, Logan Thomas is a plus.
Yeah, he is. I think he's a major plus. I think it's a good get. Brother Bob says, good news. Only 3 minutes late. That's an improvement. Hey, we tried. We're trying, Brother Bob. We're trying. Give us a pat on the back, would you? Matt says, finally, we can do a true tight end set if healthy.
I'm going to tell you this. As soon as Bob gets a show and gets a channel, 1 second late, I am lighting the chat up, dog. Like,
oh no, you don't have to. You don't have to. Here's what you do, because it's almost a lock that Grant's going to start late, and he goes on with Grant, right? So that means automatically he's like a part of that duo. Doesn't matter who's late. You're there, so he's going to be late. So just wait till the next time he's on with Grant. I can guarantee they're going to start late.
You are doing your own show.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. I can't wait for it. Samir says, this is your friendly reminder to feed the algorithm. I think he's telling y'all to hit the like button. I appreciate it, Samir. I appreciate it. All right, let's talk a little bit about BA. And man, there's a million different ways we can talk about this one here. First of all, let's start with the Justin Jefferson signing. I mean, this was a huge, huge deal. This one shocked the hell out of me. Just the amount of guarantee, more guaranteed money than any other player in the league other than quarterbacks is absolutely insane. Reset the market completely today for wide receivers. Do you feel like this has any impact on the BA deal?
Nah, it's a little too rich. We're talking about, Jamar Chase, Tariq Hill type air right now when we're talking about the type of money that Justin Jefferson just pulled down. For lack of a better term, there's levels to this. And this ain't that, to be real with you. I think that it can do nothing but help BA's cause, but I just don't see any direct correlation of the player, the deal, the worth, and the money to what BA is asking for. Now, I do know that what I could say is that the Niners strategy of waiting to the bitter end or waiting right before training camp or right before the season is biting them in the ass because right now, the only receiver, in my opinion, not even my opinion, but as far as I'm concerned, the only receiver that at large right now is Brandon Aiyuk and CeeDee Lamb. Everybody else has been paid.
Jamar Chase hasn't been paid yet, but I mean, we're talking levels, right?
Yeah. But as far as a guy that's out there around BA's level, it's CeeDee Lamb, right? And maybe T. Higgins. We'll see what they're going to do with T. Higgins. But outside of that, the Niners have kind of sat on their laurels a little too long, in my opinion. And, they let the cement dry up. When it was wet, they could have made some moves. They could have been a little bit more maneuverable and agile to see what they could have gotten out of BA. But from the negotiation side of things, that is. But right now, it seems pretty lock, stock, and barrel that BA is going to get his money, which is to the tune of at least $29 to $30 million, at least. I just think that it's just a lock. And he's going to get his money, and Debo will be moved. So that's just the long and short of it. They're not going to. All right. So it's how can I put it like this? It's cheaper to keep her, man. It's cheaper to keep her. It's like you're at that point where she's becoming way too much of a burden to your lifestyle. But if she leaves, she snatches so much infrastructure with her that it's going to completely set you on your ass anyway. So it's cheaper to keep her. I feel like you really getting in that position with BA with the Niners. But as far as Debo, he gone. Debo's gone. They're going to pay BA, and then Debo's got to go. Ricky Pearsall is going to come in and actually give you a little bit more of an uptick. I think they're evolving past what Debo's skill set is anyway. You're starting to see a little bit of it now, especially really the culmination of it was the Super Bowl where Debo got a full route tree to go beat Debo when he couldn't really do it against some of the most elite man corners that the game had to give at that moment. So you can understand that winning football in today's day and age isn't always about straight net competitive aspects. Like it's not that anymore. You got to be McDonald's, right? So it's like, what is efficient? What's going to keep us winning? What's going to keep us viable? What's going to keep us in a winner's seat? What's going to keep us trendy? What's going to keep us on the cutting edge so we can be able to afford our players and move forward? And the big move is that now they're transitioning from this physical pound the ground team to now they're spreading the ball out. I've listened to Kyle. Kyle said this throughout the season. We asked Kyle about this multiple times where, hey, during critical downs, we're kind of noticing that you guys are going more spread. You guys necessarily aren't going in your condensed formations anymore. What happened to 12 personnel? What happened to 11? We necessarily have started to see Kyle Juszczyk come off the field more. And Kyle was very open about it when he said, well, this is what Brock is used to. This is what Brock did at Iowa State. He's very comfortable with going spread. He's very comfortable with pitch and catch, getting the ball out quick, throwing the ball off in certain angles. And right there, if you think about that skill set for what you have with Brock coming down the road where you have to pay him, Jess, Debo becomes just an expensive ornament at this point, right? So that's how I see it, man. BA's going to stay, but Debo's gone.
Oh, do you think he's gone before this year or just in general? He'll be gone probably next year.
I think they may do it. They may do it with a team that may think they're close. They may do it with a team that wants to get over the hump. I mean, the NFL is very finicky. I've seen guys get traded because the team just needs a splash. And it's like, you know what? He can come over here to Serbia, right? Like Deebo Samuel can be the next OBJ. He could be like the next guy that gets shipped out. He goes to Cleveland. You know what I'm saying? Gets shipped to Cleveland, plays a couple of years there, goes to another team that's probably top heavy, but doesn't have a lot of legs. Having a Deebo Samuel there is enough to galvanize a fan base to make you feel as though that we really got a shot at winning. And he could just be that guy that can give you the latest. He'll give you the greatest fashion walkouts for your games. You know what I'm saying? And, he'll have the latest, Balenciaga on. But that's what I kind of see the track, man. I see it for Debo. Like right now, you can galvanize your team around him when you can like put stuff around him, right? But he's not a standalone guy. And as he kind of gets into a position of his career where I think he's there now, where he's a little bit too expensive for his skill set, the Niners are going to move off of him. I do.
I don't think they'll move off him this year, but I definitely think he's gone next year. I actually agree with you, though, as far as the Justin Jefferson deal. I don't think the Justin Jefferson deal has anything to do with Brandon Aiyuk. I don't look at that deal and go, oh, my gosh, Aiyuk just got more expensive.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah, exactly. I think Jamar Chase is sitting there like, all right, here we go. Getting me paid. I appreciate it.
I feel like Jamar Chase is like, hey, boo, what's them, big head?
Yeah. But I am about to go Sheets Jr. on you right here. Because
Sheets Jr., yeah.
Sheets Jr. here. Hopefully y'all can see that.
I
can, hold on. You know what? I can zoom in on this a little bit. Let's see.
Zoom in, Sheets.
Hopefully you guys can see that. Oop, a little bit. There we go. All right. So I think the deal's been set. We've got Devontae Smith, we've got Jalen Waddle, we've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Mm-hmm. Those are the three. Like that's the sandbox that Brandon Aiyuk's playing in. If you look at the 3-year stat averages, he's basically in line with all three of those guys. So we know the framework of the deal. We know that the most we've seen on average annual value out of these three guys is $30 million. We know that the most fully guaranteed out of these three guys is $36 million from Waddle. And we know that the guarantees overall, the highest guarantees we've seen overall is $77 million from Amon-Ra St. Brown. However, I believe the holdup comes around the fully guaranteed. And the reason I say that is because if I'm the Niners, I'm looking at these three going, hey, statistically, this is about where you're at. The things they bring to their teams, this is what we expect from you. We're going to give you a deal close to Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jalen Waddle. And he's going, that's great. I don't mind the average annual value. I don't mind the guarantees. It's the fully guaranteed. And the reason that I believe that is the hang up is because if you look across the bow and you look at Debo, he had $41 million in full guarantees. And then you've got a guy like Calvin Ridley, who his deal was only about $23 million on average annual value this year. but he had 47 million fully guaranteed. And I think Aiyuk is looking at these two saying, hey, I don't mind signing a deal like these other guys, but that fully guaranteed has got to be much more than $36 million. It better be more than what Debo got and closer to what Ridley got. And I think that's probably what's hanging up this whole thing with the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk. What do you think?
I believe you too, man. I really do believe that I don't think that when you hear that, all right, so when you hear that like contracts are miles apart, I do believe that that's about guaranteed money, right? Yep. The fact that if they're talking, then they have a floor. They got a number, right? They're just now talking about how is it going to be allocated? How are we going to divvy this up? How much is this going to be put on the cap versus how much of this is going to be thrown to me in a lump sum and guaranteed money? And how much of this is going to be given to me in incentives on the back end versus the front end, on top of how much is this going to affect my annual salary, my base, right? So I feel like at this stage of the game, the Niners and BA are really talking about guaranteed money. I think his biggest thing with them is that the Niners do something really, really cool. I'm being fun with it, but they love the backload contracts, right? And what they do is they backload contracts, and then when it's time for you to get your payday, they pay you up front, okay? They give you an extension, okay? And they pay you up front, and then they kick money down the road to help the team out so they can get more room on the cap. But really, when it's time for them to pay you that raw money, your salary-based money, that's when they come to you looking for like a deal. Like, hey, man, you're going to have to come up off some of this money, man. That's what happened to Eric Armstead, right? Mm-hmm. Where, he essentially was asked to come up off of his money that was due to him, his salary, just off out of nowhere. And and let's be honest, for the record, the Niners did not come out and say this. But if this is true, they asked him to take an $11 million pay cut. That's
significant.
Nuts. That is unreal, bro. It is. It's like, I'm not a big fan of Eric Armstead either. Okay? I'm not a big fan of Eric Armstead. But I just think asking for taking $11 million off of my annual base salary, it was just a little unfair. Honestly, Jesus, Jed, come on, Kyle. How could you guys even do that to me? You already let go of DeForest for me. Like, I just thought you guys would have thought better of me. That's all. There's a way to just do things. And the way you did it it really shocked me. Look at this is me shocked. I'm shocked right now. So you guys should have done better. And I just feel like they did Eric Armstead like that. It was wrong.
They did. They did do it wrong.
So honestly, the thing about it is that I see that, like I said, BA's kind of been, I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of talking to the media while you're trying to get your money. It just cheapens your stance. It takes attention away from the real conversation, which is your worth. We should not be talking about this stuff. But the energy around how BA is talking, I get it. It's like, look, bro, like, I understand you guys have this culture, but there's a lot of guys that get paid that kind of, they sandbag it, right? They kind of let off the gas. And I've been a pro all the way through all of this. While I've watched all of these guys, be less than professional and rest on their laurels and kind of like have brother-in-law agreements with each other. I'm not having it. Y'all are going to pay me. You know what I'm saying? So, I think that the Niners and BA are going to find common ground. But it's going to be at the expense of Debo, though. I know that for a fact. There's no way that they keep Debo and BA off of a deal.
Yeah, once that money kicks in next year for Aiyuk, you got to imagine Debo's gone. But this is it. For everybody that's wondering what type of deal we're looking at, it's not the years and the full amount. It's not the average annual value. It's not even the guarantees. It's what's fully guaranteed at signing. that is most likely what's hanging this thing up. And it just kind of came to me today as I was looking at those deals. It's like, man, that's really easy to make happen. Why is this not happen? And then started digging a little deeper. I'm like, hold on a second. These guys have this much fully guaranteed. There's no way BA is okay with 36, 37 million fully guaranteed when these guys, Debo, his teammate, got 41 and Ridley got 47. Absolutely
you parceling out his money to him, and that's really, from a player standpoint, I agree with that 100%. It's like, man, don't play with me. Don't give me paper money. You know what I'm saying? Don't give me money in name. You give me raw cash. I need mine. So whenever you guys get to, I feel like Willie Beeman, whatever you guys want to waive me, trade me, or whatever y'all want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I understand. It's like when you get at the table, it's like I need it all, that I need it up front.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, another question I have is mandatory start tomorrow, 2-day stretch. Do you think now if BA doesn't attend, he will start to get fined? Do you think BA will be in the building tomorrow?
No.
Wow. Okay.
I think you got to stand on business, man. He told a line. He told a tough line. He's been talking tough. And for you to show up to the building, it's going to be a little bit awkward. It's like, it's going to be hard for you to kind of like keep that stance being in the building. It's like, I refuse to be budged off of this contract, but I'm still going to show up and be on the sidelines. It's like, at some point you got to grow up, and like, you can't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. If you're not going to show up, don't show up and take the fines, because you're about to get paid millions. So take the fines. You got to stand on it. You've already kind of, you burned the boats on this one. That's why I don't agree with that at all. It would be nice to see him there from a team perspective, but if I'm BA's agent, or if I'm like in his camp, I'm like, man, that weakens us, man. We already said that we're not budging. So what are we showing up for? You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna get fined. All right, what's the fine? We talking about getting you paid $30 million a year, boy. You about to have that in your couch cushions. Like, come on, man. Don't fold now if you really gonna stand on it. So I don't think he's gonna show up.
Man, Lamar Jackson didn't show up to OTAs, although they weren't mandatory. He missed out on $750,000. If he would have just showed up, he would have gotten paid nearly $1 million. And he's like, nah, I ain't going. I'm good. So I don't know. We'll see. I think he will show up. I just don't expect him to do anything. I think he'll show up. The guy, first of all, Trent Williams will show up because he's not in a contract dispute. CMC, we don't know exactly what's going on with him, but I think he'll show up. I think BA shows up, but I think all three of them are not going to participate at all the next 2 days. They'll just kind of be there, hanging out in joggers on the sideline, chewing sunflower seeds or whatever they do. So I think BA will be there so he doesn't get fined, but I don't think he's participating. We'll see though. But I like your approach. I mean, you kind of are saying, you pay me or I'm out.
Yeah, I like that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't feel like it has anything to do with like twisting a knife or trying to be like ultra disrespectful or, trying to be performative. Like, I get that. All of those things could be misunderstood for him not showing up. Those things could be attributed to him. But really, the basis of it, in my opinion, will be consistency. Like, you got to stay consistent, bro. Like, you done told these people what your worth is and what you're willing to pay and not get paid on. You done not showed up for minicamp. You done not showed up for the OTAs. Now it's like you coming up on this, man. Like, bruh, you ain't going to play if they don't pay or they got to move you. So let's get it together. Now I will say this, him showing up and participating will be amazing because it would just bode well for contract negotiations that they're close, and there's no need to even posture, so I would love this. I'm sitting back to be able to see it all. But for now, I do believe that he just won't show up. He's got to be consistent, and he's got like this whole like militant vibe thing going yet. Like, BA's not 30 yet. So he's like real fiery. Like, he's got a little bit of ABM in him. He hasn't gotten it over it yet. He's not 30 yet.
I feel it. Okay. Last question. Rumors keep swirling that the Steelers are still heavily interested in either Brandon Aiyuk or Deebo Samuel. For some reason, these rumors will not go away. Do you think there's real smoke to this for either BA or Deebo? Or do you think it's just on the Steelers side and there's no shot? I mean, it sounds like you think the 49ers might be willing to deal Deebo at some point before possibly the trade deadline. But do you think there's any truth or rationale to these rumors continuing for months now from the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Only thing is that I believe that there may be a team out there that may want BA and Deebo. I just don't think that it's the Steelers for a couple of reasons. One, the Steelers don't traditionally spend money on receivers. It's not what they do. They usually get receivers and have homegrown talent and then move off of the receivers when they get too expensive. So them bringing on a receiver like BA, would automatically kind of be saying to themselves, like, all right, George Pickens has 2 years left on this deal, and you're going to be bringing BA in, and you're going to pay him. Okay, so what are you bringing BA in for? Are you saying that George Pickens isn't what you thought he was, and it's time for you to move him? Do we get George Pickens, right? Or are you adding George Pickens to BA, which then in 2 years, you're going to be having George Pickens saying that he wants to get paid. And really already with the balls and the targets that George Pickens has gotten thus far with the Steelers, they're about neck and neck. If you go look at the numbers, George Pickens and Brandon Aiyuk have just about the same production. If you look at their numbers, as far as yards, numbers, catches, and I believe in a couple of statistical categories, George Pickens outshines Brandon Aiyuk. So I don't see there necessarily being like a huge leap in talent for them to even add him to what they already have going on, let alone swapping him out. I think that would be something that they don't want to do anyway. Why would you pay a Brandon Aiyuk when you have basically kind of like a younger Brandon Aiyuk, hopefully in the making? So that's one. Two, bringing in Deebo Samuel over there, that could work, but he's just too damn expensive. At $28 million a year, he's just not. There's not enough bang for the buck as far as bringing in a receiver / running back who, for the money in Pittsburgh, they would have to kind of revolve that offense around him. And I just I don't see Deebo being able to take on that kind of skills, that type of job description at this stage of his career. I mean, we will see. I will tell you this is the best that Deebo's ever looked in the offseason. I have never seen him look this good, to be real with you. So I've loved the way he's responded, but as far as the Steelers picking up BA, I just think that it would be a lateral move if you're really looking at it with rose-colored glasses. Really, I think it would be a loss on both sides. Us for picking up anybody that they would have. I don't think they have anybody viable enough for us to even make that move in a trade. And for them, even if they get BA, they're going to lose on the money side, right? Because you're going to lose whatever you give us, and then you got to turn right around and give BA $30 million a year. BA, I mean, with Deebo, I just don't think it's enough bang for the buck. I mean, the viability of Deebo, I think is probably going to happen with somebody, like I said, who's going to be, they're kind of going to be prisoners of the moment. That's when trades like Deebo happen, right? Splash trades, teams that are trying to make it to the playoffs, or they're in the playoffs, but they need that one guy to make them viable or make them push them into another echelon. And Deebo, I feel like there's a lot of situations like that throughout the year where, like I said, Cleveland may get hot and then all of a sudden come knocking, asking, hey, what's going on with Deebo over there? And, the Niners may say, oh, great. You think you're getting past Patrick Mahomes? Take him. You know what I'm saying? Like, good luck over there, Deebo, in the AFC. You're perpetually stuck under the umbrella. So I think another team will come sniffing around, possibly in Atlanta. I see come sniffing around. I would love Denver to come sniffing around because I want Justin Simmons or I want DJ Young. DJ Jones. But outside of that, I just think if I had to surmise the entire take down to A or B, I would say it's more smoke than it is fire as far as the Pittsburgh.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Pittsburgh easily could be interested in either or both.
Otani,
But
yes, I'm sorry. Simmons is a free agent. I don't know why he's still out there too.
yeah, he is a free agent. You're talking about safety, right? Yeah, he's a free
Yeah.
agent. I think that the Steelers could easily be interested in one or both, but they've been interested since before the draft, and clearly nothing has happened. I don't see a point in the 49ers moving on from either one of them at this point in time. They hold both of their rights. They're trying to win a Super Bowl. It doesn't matter whether BA plays on the 5th-year option or whatever. At this point, I feel like you're locked in unless you're getting a player in return that you also think can help you win a Super Bowl this year. So I don't think either one of them are going anywhere. I don't care who sniffs around. The only option that I could see is if the 49ers are just somehow awful at the trade deadline and they're like, all right, you know what? This thing's clearly not going to work. We're not going to win a Super Bowl. We'll start shipping some of these pieces out. I don't foresee that happening. The 49ers are obviously going to remain competitive, barring something crazy happening. So I think they're both going to be on this roster. And then next year is when you're going to see the moves made. We'll see if BA gets signed long-term this offseason. I assume he will. And then that would mean that Debo, to your point, would eventually be on the move, which makes the most sense. Matt says BA salary comp, ceiling St. Brown, floor Waddle. Yeah, we just broke it down, Matt. I'm sure that you put this in there before we broke down the actual contracts. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of in there. It's just the fully guaranteeds that we're kind of waiting on. Matt says everyone says the 49ers wait too long. I think it's players and agents. It's more conducive for the player to wait than the team. Matt, I can hear this to a certain extent, but there's no way that the 49ers just have the worst luck in the world that their players and agents always want to wait. And the reason that I would disagree with this too is because Debo came out and requested a trade. Kittle's agent called it the Valentine's Day massacre as far as what they had offered him. You had Warner getting upset during his negotiations. So clearly there's something the 49ers are consistently doing. It's not Bosa, on the other hand, he was going to wait. He was always going to wait. That one makes sense. Maybe Aiyuk's in that same situation, but it's not always just the players. It's way too much of a coincidence that it's always the players and their agents when it comes to the 49ers specifically.
Yeah, they really just try to squeeze you. What they really want, the reason that why they want to wait is because they want to get you in a position where it's kind of an old playbook. They want to get you in a position where they don't think that you're willing to lose money to get this deal done. So they want to get you in a position where you will lose fines, where the season is creeping up on you. And they're going to squeeze you into a position where they're going to look at you and say, are you really not going to play this year? Is that what you're going to do to your teammates? Is that what you're going to do to your coaching staff? This is beyond money now. You're just a bad teammate when it comes as it comes to this. Like, this is moral. This is a moral issue now. Right now, we're beyond money. Now you're screwing up, Carol and accounts receiving. You're kind of messing with like the fabric of what we do. And teams really do lean on players that way. It's a real head jerk. But that's why they love waiting, because they don't think that you're going to do what most players don't ever do, which is say, I'm not playing. I will not play, because that means that you're going to be a pariah then. Because if you don't want to come to the negotiation table of me and my other 30 billionaire associates, none of us will give you asylum. And that's the way you get squeezed in the NFL. So a lot of times when we say to ourselves, why do players not want to wait, is because they're racing against that clock. They're racing against the inevitable of knowing that either I'm going to get paid or I'm going to get shipped out. But whatever I have to do, I have to play. Because if I sit out for the simple fact that I'm not playing, then the game moves past me. Losing a year of football, even half a season in football, is tremendous amount of time. These guys age like dogs. And when it comes to football, you know what I'm saying, and talent is concerned. So that's why they understand that they want to get this deal done as fast as possible so they can get back to their process, so they can go back and train the way they used to, go to the spots that they usually go to, chill with family what they usually want to. Organizations know how much of a mental stress and an endeavor it is for players to go through stuff like this, because this is stuff that they do literally every year. somebody's contract is always up, right? So it's not necessarily the players, man. It's more the organization.
Yeah, I think so as well. Calvin says, what are you hoping to see in minicamp preseason? A certain player or style? I want to see if the Niners are going to move to more of a spread out offense. I think that's a good one. I think for me, I'm curious to see what the competition looks like on the offensive line and also the rotations on the defensive line. I mean, there's a lot of changes that were made along the defensive line. Who do they think is going to be the starters? Who's going to be your third down pass rushers? What does that look like? So I think there's that. And then, I mean, I'm not trying to take all of it, but corner number 2. I mean, we pretty much know that Lenore is going to be there. I assume he's going to start and be your nickel corner. Maybe not, but who's going to be the other outside corner? Is it going to be Lenore? Who's going to move inside if that's the case? I think those are the big storylines I'm looking for.
I'm looking for what's going to happen with our defensive tackle position. We're incredibly thin at interior defensive line. Right now, we got in some guys that seem to be good replacements, but I really want to see what some guys behind them, Kalia Davis. I want to see what the defensive tackle from Houston that we traded for. I want to be able to see what Jordan Elliott is going to bring into the team. So right now, I want to see basically really the middle of our team, the entire middle of our team. Like, I want to know what's going to happen with the center situation with Jake Brindle. There seems to be an open competition with Ben Barch, Nugent, and John Feliciano. I want to know about the right guard competition between Spencer Burford and Dominic Pooney. I also care about the inside linebacker competition between Devondre Campbell, Jalen Graham, and D Winters. Like, I want to see what happens there. I also want to see if we just stay inside the hashes and go back one more level. I want to see what Malik Mustafa is going to do and how Huff is going to respond. What is Huff going to look like? So, like, the middle of our team optically has a lot of turnover. I'm going to be excited to see how stout we look. You know, we're a strong team.
Yeah, absolutely. Brother Bob says Sheets Jr. is cool. Lombardi ain't it. BA getting his money. BA's going to get his money. The question is it with the 49ers? I think we all hope so. I think we all assume
keep
so.
It like, dog. It's like, what they going to do?
Yeah. I mean, he's getting his money somewhere.
Okay, he'll get his money somewhere. That's cool. But what are we viably going to get by letting BA walk? What are we going to get? Some picks? Some magic beans?
It'd be picks, but it would be picks next year. Like, franchise tag him and trade him for picks. That would have to be what it is. So,
picks don't mean you're gonna get your guy.
No, you're absolutely right about that. Absolutely right about that. Matt says the QB market is exploding next year. Buy Ward. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think Ward will be back, but I think the other thing too is that Ward is also, you know what, he's 28-ish. I mean, corner's the most athletic position arguably in sports. Like, you really need to be, I think it's a young man's position for the most part. I want to
swim in that soup. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm cool moving on from him. Dazza says, so if he signed for nearly 30 a year and BP is signed for 50 per year, who else is leaving? Debo's salary alone won't cover that.
Christian McCaffrey.
How it's structured. But you're looking at a lot of players. I mean, in 2 years, you're not going to have Trent Williams on the team.
You're not going to have Trent Williams' contract up there. You're not going to have Christian McCaffrey making $14 million a year. You're not going to have George Kittle making $17 million a year. These guys are highly paid, man. Let's not. These guys get paid,
and they're aging. They're aging. So, yeah. So the landscape's going to be way different by the time their money actually kicks in. BA's big time money most likely won't kick in for another 2 seasons after this one. Brock Purdy's big time money won't kick in for till like 2026, 2027. So there's a lot of ways to push back contracts. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a while before you're going to see big time money on the books from those guys. Brother Bob says, hate when I agree with Nails, but both wide receivers do stay this year. Yeah, I think that's the most logical. What was that?
You think they both stay
this year? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Speaking of, though, I mean, there's a lot of money that just entered the books for the 49ers. I imagine after signing Pearsall and after signing Thomas, there'll be roughly around 21 million that they have remaining. Now, there's multiple things they can do here, Coach. They can let that money sit there and roll it over to next year. The way that it works for anybody in the chat that doesn't understand this is I like to use hard numbers to make it easy. So let's say the salary cap is $200 million. All right. As long as you spend 85% of the salary cap, whatever you have remaining, you can add that and go over the cap next year for 1 year, whatever it is remaining. So for the 49ers, let's say they have 21 million remaining this year. They don't use it. If the cap remains 200 million next year, you can add 21 onto that. They can basically go up to 221 million while the rest of the league is at whatever their rollover is. Some teams use all their money, some teams roll over more, what have you. So that is a solution. They can roll over some money next year and essentially go over the cap. Or they can spend it this year. They can go get a guy like Simmons. Now, we do know the 49ers were sniffing around in the safety market this offseason. That, however, was before they saw what's going on with Hufanga and how healthy he's going to be. That was also before they signed or drafted, rather, Malik Mustafa. So maybe they're no longer in the safety market. Maybe the tight end market was exactly where they wanted to be. The other option is they can do this, and this is what they've done a lot, which is probably what I'm going to advocate for, Coach, is keep this money as long as you can. Maybe that means you keep it all the way through the season and you roll it all over. Or maybe it means at the trade deadline, you can make a lopsided trade. You can bring back a big salary who may be expiring, but somebody that can help you win this year. The 49ers seem to do this at the trade deadline almost every year. A couple years ago, it was Christian McCaffrey. Last year, it was Chase. Whoever that player is this year, that could be an option as well. What do you think the 49ers should do with their money?
Right now, I do think they could sit on it right now to see what can shake up for available players throughout the year. You never know what's going to shake. I would like them to get a little bit more stout. It could be cheap. There's a couple of names that I think they should really kick the tires on. Al Woods, defensive tackle out of the Jets. I would also kick the tires on Linval Joseph. He's still out there. I just really don't trust that we have stout run defense right now, and that's going to be big for us. I really want us to be more I want us to be just more stout in the trenches. I also believe that maybe, for what it's worth, throughout the years, we've always had veteran leadership at the safety position. And we just lost Gip, and we've kind of fell off from the safety position right now from as far as veteran leadership is concerned. With the Gip leaving, and then with the emergence of Jair Brown and now Malik Mustafa, Justin Simmons and Quandre Diggs are still out there. I wouldn't have a problem with either one of those guys coming in right now and being able to be a solid guy who knows how to help those guys out just in case we start getting manipulated back there and getting singled out. I understand that they may not be guys that can be on our team for the long haul, but Justin Simmons definitely is somebody who I feel as though, outside of maybe some injury questions, could come in and give us a look. I really believe that even more so than, and I really want the trenches to get together, honestly, but even more so than Al Woods and Linval Joseph, I think Justin Simmons and Quandre Diggs would be two safeties that, the Niners, I would love for them to come in. But as you can see, I'm kind of in the bargain barrel right now of trying to bring in players. There's nobody really big that I think that should be brought in right now. I really do like it when we have when we could be a little bit more agile and have some cap space to be able to make the moves that we need to mid-season. So those are some of the moves that I see.
I'm looking it up right now. Hold on a second. I think he's still out there. Yeah, he is. Okay, he is coming off of an injury. I've advocated for this player before, and I don't think he would necessarily be available till around mid-season. But if they don't make a trade for a player, I'm all for upgrading the offensive line, and it's really hard to do that during the season. If Connor Williams can get healthy, He is one of the best centers in the league, man. And if he's healthy and he's available, I think the 49ers should go after him. He runs the zone run scheme perfect. That's exactly what he just came from with Mike McDaniels. So he would be the perfect fit. Get him on a half-year prove-it deal. He wouldn't be expensive, but also it would make sense for him to try to show that he's back for the rest of the league. I would love for the 49ers to be able to bring him in if he does get healthy and available. So I'm not advocating for them to spend their money now. Sit on it as long as you can. Maybe there's an injury in training camp and you have to go spend that money. Maybe you think that you're a contender midseason again. You can go make a big time trade, or a Connor Williams or somebody like that is still available on the free agent market and you can go upgrade your offensive line in the middle of the season. I think that's a scenario they should look at. So I think they have a lot of possibilities. I think the 49ers have been very smart with their allocation of remaining money entering seasons in the past. And I would love for them to continue to do that. So for me, hold pat, save that money as long as possible, make a move at some point during the season if you can. And that's what I would do with it. So we'll see what they end up doing, but they'll end up spending some of it. Some of that money is going to come off the books. No doubt about it.
I mean, they're gonna spend, but I like where they're sitting right now. I mean, you got to give tips off to them. They put together a good team, and they give us enough to talk about for us to at least see where they got a shot. We at least can squint our eyes and look and say, I kind of see what you're doing right here. So we have viable pieces. It's just, we just don't have the shiny parts that we're used to. The names aren't there this year. So we gotta dig a little deeper to figure out what these guys are going to give us, because quite frankly, we don't know half these dudes. So we're really going to have to see what they're going to do with this.
Yeah, absolutely. The answer is the Patriots, I believe, Niner gang. That is your answer. All right. Dave Barclay says, trade Kyle. And then he says, what's up, guys? Trade Kyle. And then he says, oh, did you see that? Trade Kyle. Just to make sure that you saw it. Yeah. Good. We got it, man. We got it. Dazza says, so if in 2 years' time, Kittle, Trenton, Juice, and potentially CMC, Ward are gone, are the Niners heading for a rebuild? That leaves BA, assuming they extend. BP and Fred, who's replacing the Pro Bowlers, leaving. That's the tough part. That's why they really got to hit on this draft. They got to hit on next year's draft. Picks, man. Yep. And it's not going to be like it was in the past, where if you miss on draft picks, you can just go get big name free agents, because they're not going to have that money available. So they really have to hit on those draft picks. They absolutely have to hit. Every pick matters over the next couple of years. And then also you hope that, Brock Purdy's only going into year 3. You hope that he can continue to elevate and be a better player. And if that's the case, that can make up for some of it. And I'll also say this, maybe instead of replacing all those Pro Bowlers on offense, you can go get offensive line, and then you don't need Pro Bowlers everywhere to get open. You can actually just protect Brock Purdy, give him time to throw, and then it won't matter, because you're giving receivers 4 seconds to get open instead of 2, and it makes their life a lot easier anyway. So just a thought, throwing it out there. But the way the 49ers philosophy is, I highly doubt that's going to be the case.
It's going to be interesting to see how they build the team around Brock. That's one thing I really do want to see. Are they really going to? Because all right, narrative time. But when Jimmy was here, right? Did you feel like sometimes Kyle would like? Did you ever get the feeling that Kyle was like really flippant with Jimmy's like health? Because he just didn't believe that Jimmy was that good of a quarterback. Like he almost, in a sense of almost like Jimmy didn't even deserve to be protected. Like, look, man, just call the plays. You barely see it as it is. It's your job to protect yourself. But I just kind of felt like Kyle always had like this disregard.
I did too. Nope, I did too.
Am I tripping? Yeah. Like I always felt like Kyle just had this disregard for Jimmy. Like whatever, dog. Like he's getting paid enough to deal with his own injuries. Like I always felt like, in a way, because Jimmy was a bit fake and waxy, it never kind of landed on like a real heartbeat. It never landed on something that was like tangible, right? So it was kind of like Jimmy kind of getting treated like crap by Kyle really didn't really hit because Jimmy's just not somebody where you kind of wonder if he even has a heartbeat himself. But Brock, I don't think Kyle can treat Brock like that. I don't
think he wants to treat Brock like that.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to do that either. Yeah. And I'm really going to be paying attention to seeing like how Kyle is going to build the philosophy around this team now, right? Is it really going to be about Brock? Because I'm under the impression that Kyle genuinely likes Brock. I feel that. I feel like he does. He likes him. So I will say, maybe you will see, think about it, man. And this is a gift and a curse for Kyle, but he dotes on his players that he really likes. You know what I'm saying? He really kind of crosses that barrier of coach player. Like he kind of like makes you his friend. And it's cool when you're on the good side of it, if you're Trent or if you're Debo, but when he kind of finds a new toy, then what? You know what I'm saying? What are you going to do to be on the outside of that? So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Are they all going to be able to coexist there, right? Because I don't think that BA and Kyle have that type of relationship. So BA getting paid that type of money, it's going to be business when he gets paid that type of money. I feel like when Debo got paid his bag or when Trent got paid his bag, it was kind of like good looking out. Like you put me on, I'm indebted to you. But in a way, I feel like Brandon getting his bag is like, oh, okay, you want to force our hand? You want to be the option? All right, well, now the offense is around you. So we'll see.
Yeah, Emiliano does bring up a good point. He says, wait, didn't Kyle do that bit with Purdy too when he basically blamed him for his own injury after the 2022 NFC Championship?
That was weird.
He did.
That was weird.
He did do that. He did that.
Hold
He was right though. He was absolutely right.
You got to look at Kyle like a snake, though. Like they attack when they get afraid. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I kind of felt like at the time he was just like, well, you could have stepped up. Like that was just like his knee jerk reaction. I feel like when Kyle, I mean, that's not to say that you're not right, Emiliano. Like you are right, but I just feel like with Kyle, with Jimmy, he kind of like revels in it. Like he's just like, yeah, so what? His leg is broken. Yeah, I saw him with one arm out there. Why didn't he throw with the other one? I have plays for left arm throws all the time. What's the matter with you?
I dusted off my Mike McDaniels playbook. I see what he does with Tua.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, well, I don't see the problem. I mean, he had two perfectly good feet. So what if his arms got knocked off in the second quarter? He could have kicked the ball. It'd have been better than the accuracy with the arms. Who cares?
Yeah. By the way, I had a major issue with him saying that because I thought it was distasteful, but he was absolutely right. He should have stepped up in the pocket. He had plenty of room to do so. But as a head coach, you don't say that to the public. You don't say that. I mean, we don't need to hear that. You know what I mean? It's his way of passing the buck or passing the blame. It's like, yeah, he's a rookie quarterback, man. What do you think? He was just going to be perfect in every scenario. So your thought process was, let me leave this rookie quarterback one-on-one with one of the best pass rushers barreling down his neck with a free rush and just expect that he makes the perfect decision at that time. It's like, come on, man. The fact that you expected that is all I need to know about what your thoughts are of these guys. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. But he did say that. That is true. Dazza says, so Niners' future is on BP developing, yet they won't know what he looks like without all those Pro Bowlers till they're not here. That's true.
Get it. Okay.
True.
Just
true. What?
Let's just move on. I don't want to get started with this. The whole we don't know what Brock's gonna be, and
there's nothing to get into. Everybody knows where I stand with it. I
just don't think that the Niners are ever going to get to a position where they let go of like that much talent. They're going to bring more people in. Like we didn't like.
Yeah. They're not. Yeah.
Like Brock is never like. Let me put it like this: if we ever get to a position where Brock Purdy is dragging the entire team along and there's like no talent around him, that is officially a 49ers issue. That's not a Brock problem. He's never just going to have like no
He's
talent.
not going to have no talent. No. That's not going to happen. I mean, even dumb luck will find you some talent. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to be devoid of all talent. He may never have the talent he has now, but he'll have talent around him. All teams have some talent somewhere. Like even the worst of teams have talent somewhere for the most part. So he'll have talent around him at some point. Like it just won't be an embarrassment of riches. And that's okay. As long as he improves, doesn't really matter. Speaking of improving, however, I want to know if there's a player or two that you think is going to be better this year than last year. And then I want to know the flip side of that. I want to know a player or two that you think might be worse from last year to this year. So let's go negative first and end on positive, actually. So give me a player or two that you think might be worse this year over last year, and then I'll do the same, and then we'll move it to the better side and end on that.
All right, so you think that's give you somebody who I think is going to regress into this year.
Yep.
Fred Warner.
Oh.
I think the world of Fred. I think Fred. He's got some tackling issues. Maybe got some. He's a bit of a grandstander, but very conscientious, fast, one of one, very, very unique linebacker, especially for this day and age of football. But I feel like Fred has really benefited from the type of defense that he's played with, the type of defensive line that he's played behind. And to be honest with you, he's really benefited from Dre Greenlaw playing with Dre. They really play well off of each other. I watched a lot of film of those two playing together, and they have a synergy where they understand how to shoot gaps together. They understand how to scrape and read and react together. They split the field and play with blurred vision very well. But Fred is a completely different player when he doesn't have his road dog with him, especially in the run game. And that's one thing that I feel like people want to do with the Niners, particularly as we start seeing the emergence of Brock Purdy, is that teams are going to want to try to slow us down. That's one of the things that kind of got us out of the physicality. There's so many ways. Football is a beautiful sport, man. There's so many ways how to get away or get to certain elements of the game that you want to with elements of the game. And one thing that I feel like Kyle does a very good job of is that he uses the tempo of the game to kind of control the physicality of the game. Whereas if you're scoring too fast, there's just certain elements of the game that you can't slow down and really get to as a team. And a lot of times, because of how we moved on offense, our defense got protected by run games who really wanted to work on us on defense because we were moving the ball so fast. Especially when we ran the ball on offense, we used a lot of outside zone, crack tosses, getting the ball out quick with Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, Brock Purdy being able to play pitch and catch and get the ball out in intermediate throws, changing his arm angles, all of these little things to be able to just get away from the fact that we ain't that physical. We're just not. We can't slow down and just line up and play against you. And that's what happens usually when we lose. We play teams that can line up and play. They don't have to use the vestiges of the game with all of these smoke and mirrors to be able to get to what they truly want to. And I feel like that was something that you saw on our defense where we played incredibly well. You know, we held Patrick Mahomes at 19 points regulation, right? That ain't nothing to sneeze about. But as time goes on, teams are going to start being able to understand that there's not one way in, one way out for this defense. It's through those A gaps. And I believe that Fred is just He's just not the type of linebacker that's going to be able to be in those A gaps, taking a beating week in and week out. He's just not, that's not his playing style. And a lot of that stuff used to get taken over by Dre Greenlaw. So unless somebody steps up and kind of takes over that physical role of holding down that quadrant of the field, I think that Fred Warner is going to take a step back. Nothing, not huge. You know, I don't expect him to be like the worst linebacker that we've seen, but I just think it's going to be hard. And one thing that you have seen out of Fred that is attributed to his play, which I don't know, I can't tell somebody how to take care of their body, but Fred Warner plays very cautiously as a linebacker, like noticeably cautiously as to be a linebacker. And that's why it's no coincidence that he's got a very good track record for staying on the field and not being hurt. I think this is the year that Fred is going to be asked to sacrifice his body. Like, he's really going to be, no, you can't be a glorified safety. You don't get to run and jump on top of the pile once somebody makes contact. You don't get to chase somebody and grab and drag. You don't get to come at somebody with an angle. No, there's going to be games where you are going to be hands down the tip of the spear guy that's going to have to be able to put his head down and charge as a defensive leader. And I think that Fred has gotten away from that ask because Dre has stepped up and done that so many times. I mean, I've seen Dre, man. Dog, I've seen Dre Greenlaw play games where it's like the first series and you see he's hurt. You're like, why is he playing today? He's limping around, holding his shoulder after plays, limping back into the huddle after plays, getting picked up off of tacklers. He's hitting people so hard, they're dragging him off the ball carrier after plays, like play after play after play. And I feel like Fred has not been asked to do that. And in some instances, he hasn't had to. And I feel like this year, he's going to be asked to do that, and it's going to affect some things.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one because I think that him and Greenlaw complement each other so well. Where Fred has maybe some weaknesses, Greenlaw picks up, and vice versa. And not having that guy next to him, I think, can get interesting. I think offensive lines can key in a little bit on Fred, maybe attack him, force him to play the run game a little bit. You know, it's no secret that Fred's a good player, but he prefers to be in pass coverage, and he prefers to be the last guy to come in and hit. You know, he like to jump on the pile and you know, do all the crazy things he does, going airbound and whatever. He likes to be the cleanup guy, and so now if you force him to be the guy, I think it makes things pretty interesting with him. We'll see how that goes, and we'll see also, you know, who it is that is his running mate when the season starts and what role they can fill. So I can understand where you're coming from with that one. For me, the player that I think is going to take a step back is CMC. I mean, CMC is entering that age, 28, where a lot of running backs start to decline. And even if he has a very good year, which I think he will, I think staying healthy with that many touches, and last year he battled through a lot of nagging things. You know, all it takes is one game for him to miss, and he's not hitting those numbers. You know, all it takes is for him to realize, like, hey, maybe I don't need 25 touches today, and I can let somebody sub in for me a little bit so that I can get healthy. So I think he's just not going to have as many touches this year. Hopefully we see a little bit of a better rotation, but also 28 years old is the beginning of the decline for most running backs. And so I don't think he'll be much different. I just don't expect 2,000 yards from scrimmage for the third time in his career. I believe it'll be the third time in his career. Arguably, last year might have been his best year of his career. I know he had 1,000 and 1,000 over in Carolina, but he had more touchdowns here. His yards per carry were by far the most that he'd had in his career. So I just don't expect those things to continue to hold up enough for him to reach 2,000 total yards again. So I think he's going to have a bit of a backstep, even though he'll still be very good.
I agree with that. You know, you kind of Debo Samuel CMC, though. It's almost like saying after 2021, who do you expect to have a regression? It's like, well, Deebo Samuel. It's like, well, of course, the year that he just had.
Yeah, but he's had 2 of these years. You know what I mean? It's not like he's had just one. Deebo Samuel was like a once in a lifetime type of year. CMC's now done this twice, essentially, where he's like, oh, 2,000 yards. Yeah, I can do that. And he had a third year where he was close. You know what I mean? So he could do it again. He's done it almost 3 times in his career.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, he did have a phenomenal year, and I just look at it from that aspect. From Fred, I think that there's going to be like a legit drop off, right? With CMC, I feel like he did so well. There's nowhere else to go but just a little bit lower. He's getting older. He's a running back, so I don't necessarily see CMC as like a huge drop off, but I do see where you're coming from. Yeah,
a good season, he could still have 1,500 total yards, but that'd be, 25% regression. That's pretty massive. You know what I mean? All right, let's get positive. Give me a player that you think is going to take a step forward this year.
Well, in my opinion, I think it's going to be Jair Brown. I think Jair Brown was coming on to the season the right way, coming off of an injury, coming into the game off injury. I believe his first game, he closed out the game. Was that the Tampa game at home?
Tampa game, yeah.
Yeah, came in at home. One thing I'll tell you, man, is that Jair Brown, I even just love the swagger and the confidence that he's bringing to the press conferences thus far. You feel like he's already been in the league for a couple of years. He's got his legs up under him, and honestly, I'm gonna tell you this right now. One thing I love about young players is that you don't know what you don't know. Right? It's almost like you walking around in your daddy's clothes. You don't know how big those things are. And I love it. I love the fact that he's been in the league for just over a full calendar year, but the experience that he's had, the time on task that he's had, the wars that he's had to be able to attribute to. I mean, that boy done been through 3 rounds of playoffs in the Super Bowl already, and he ain't even got fined yet. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so one thing that I will say is that Jair Brown for me is a bright spot in a very anemic draft that we had a year ago. I like the fact that he does bring us more of that close to the line of scrimmage pop, getting tackles in the backfield. But one thing that Jair Brown showed me is that he had a phenomenal Super Bowl performance. That's something that's one thing about this game that sucks. Is that we lost the Super Bowl, but there are so many good performances that are just going to die on the vine that we'll never talk about. Like, we'll never really give Juwan Jennings his just due for the type of game that he had in the Super Bowl, right? We'll never really talk about how much of a great performance that was for the defense as a whole to be able to play without Dre Greenlaw. Right? Like, that story is never going to get told. That story about the story on Jair Brown's game is just another one of those instances. Jair Brown had a phenomenal game in the Super Bowl. And it really showed me that, number one, he was playing with a lot of trust. He was seeing it. He was moving all over the field. I'm talking about even plays on Travis Kelce. I believe near the end of the game, he hurt himself on a tackle on Travis Kelce flying across the field. I believe that he's just somebody that also really doesn't have anybody in his way. Huff got hurt. I remember long enough where we were looking at those two skill sets being redundant. You know what I'm saying? Like, so why did they get Jair Brown? And we already have Huff, but now you're almost kind of allowing Huff to be able to get back to his knees. Get his knees. Pause. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That's nuts. So you're allowing Huff to get back to his feet from his injury, but he can do it in a more organic way because we're not necessarily like chomping at the bit to get him back on the field. So I'll tell you, man, Jair Brown is somebody who I think that the trajectory of his career and how he's been playing is going to go nowhere but up. And his last performance in the Super Bowl, the biggest game of his football career. I mean, he came out all aces, man.
Yeah, he definitely did. I like that one. I think the low hanging fruit that neither of us are going to pick here is Bosa. I mean, he has to get better, and we expect that he will. But one guy that, and I'm surprised you didn't go this route too. Actually, I mean, this is your position group, but man, Aaron Banks. I think Aaron Banks was playing a little bit hurt last year. Not a little,
Right.
not, I think, I know he was playing
he
a little
was.
bit hurt last year. He was going through a lot. And as soon as he got back, he got hurt again. Remember, he was dressed for the Washington game, but he only played on special teams.
Yeah, he was only playing on like PAT. He wasn't even playing.
Super strange. So I think he had a really good second season in the league and then just dropped off a bit. And I think that drop off was really due to playing hurt. He's also low key in a contract year. So he's got to make it right now. And a lot of people are talking about Pooney and how Pooney might be the potential replacement for him. Well, listen, if Trent Williams is going to be gone in a year or two, sure would be nice to keep Aaron Banks and develop Pooney and have both of your guard spots figured out so that you can just go draft or sign tackles or what have you. So I think Aaron Banks takes that step forward this year. I think he becomes one of the better guards in the NFL. I think he has the skill set to do it. It's just about staying healthy and then developing. Playing next to Trent Williams certainly doesn't help. I think Aaron Banks is going to be very dominant this year. So I'm looking forward to that. I think Banks takes a step forward.
I agree with that. My only thing is that I think Aaron Banks may price himself out. He may have another Lincoln Tomlinson situation.
Nope. You may be right about that. You may be. I hope not, because it's like, golly, man, if he's gone and a year later Trent's gone, like, what are they doing? How are they replacing this already not great offensive line? You might be right about that. But you know what? If he plays that good next year, then maybe the 49ers also won a Super Bowl, so I can deal with it. So I hope he balls out and he does get paid and he prices himself out if that's what it means. But I'm all for him having a really good season this year, and I think he's going to.
I will say this. Speaking of offensive line, though, if Colton McKivitz regresses, that's going to be something that is going to be swept under the rug because of how bad Mike McGlinchey was. Like, we're going to get so used to that position being inept that Cole McKivitz could legitimately regress and nobody would notice because there's not a lot of people expecting anything out of that position. I'm telling you, like, if you think about it, the first order of business for the Niners in the offseason was to pay Colton McKivitz. That was like one of their first orders of business. So all I'm saying is, and they did it like right in the throes of us like looking at Amarius Mims and like all of these like Fatuano. Like, so I'll tell you this. Speaking of players that are supposed to regress or get better, I'm keeping my eye on Colton McKivitz, man, because they paid him. And from think about it. This is a guy who got cut by his team, right? Then came back. They pushed him, shoehorned him into starting role, and then turned right around and gave him the biggest bag he's ever seen in his life. So I'm really going to be paying attention to Colton McKivitz, like, because there is such thing as being like not wearing chains and everything to a game and still getting paid and like sandbagging it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll see. I really like Banks. Also, I don't know how many people caught this. Maybe I'm tripping, but I think Forrester said something about God, who's our other right guard? I'm drawing a blank.
Aaron Banks. I mean, Spencer Burford. He said Spencer Burford is the most talented offensive lineman that we have. He said he's just not consistent.
That was nice to hear. I would like for him to take a step forward too. Also, if he's the most talented offensive lineman, he's just not consistent. How scary is that, by the way? Like, hold on a second. He was how late of a pick and he's your most talented? Like, that's not good.
I will say this, man. Like,
and obviously, he means it outside of Trent.
I think that Aaron Banks is playing out of. I think he's playing out of position. He's really a tackle. Spencer Burford. Sorry, I think Spencer Burford is playing out of position. I really do think that his talent is, he does have like great talent, man. His suddenness, his feet, he's just he doesn't have an anchor, bro. He's not a guard. I feel bad when I see him get moved off the point of attack. Like, he's just not a guard. But I like Spencer Burford, man. I really do believe he's a good, like, he's just not consistent. He's not consistent. What's good, Jimbo? But he's just not consistent.
Dave says, what can we do differently? Oh, I know. Trade Kyle.
Yo, Dave.
It's wild.
Hey, yo,
Emiliano says, arrived in the chat late, so I don't know if it was mentioned yet, but rest easy, Larry Allen.
I know, yeah, Larry Allen passed away.
Sucks, man. That sucks.
Sonoma
and it was
State,
unexpected. Man. It was unexpected, too. That's, yeah, he was on vacation with his family, man. On vacation with his family, and just...
That's it?
Yeah. That was it, yeah. I don't know if he passed in his sleep or what, but yeah, he's only 52, man. One of the all-time greats. Emmitt Smith did a stream, and you could see how visibly shaken he was. That was a big one. You know what's crazy? What's crazy is I hadn't heard about Larry Allen in years, and literally 2 or 3 days ago, somebody had posted a video of him chasing down like a corner after an interception. And it was like, this is how athletic Larry Allen. And then 2 or 3 days later, he's gone. It was the strangest thing that all of a sudden he popped up on my timeline, and I hadn't heard about him in years, but it seems to be that's the way it goes. Dazza says, what happened to Huff? He was a Pro Bowler. Is he not healthy? Content creators talk like we're moving on from him. I think it's just we don't know how healthy he is. We also realize that he was never a player that played off of athleticism, and now he's coming off of a ACL injury. That makes you less athletic your first year back. And also knowing that, you know, he's probably not going to be here for the long haul because he is young. They've got 2 other young safeties, and it's likely that he's not going to be here for the long haul. He may not be even a starter this year. We'll see. We'll see how Malik Mustafa plays and what the pairing looks like with Jair Brown. So I like Huff. I hope he bounces back. I hope he gets paid as well, but it just seems like long term, he's probably the odd man out.
Well, it's not really content creators. Like that's one thing. Like a lot of, let me put it like this, bro. Like when we make stuff up and completely pull it out of our ass, y'all let us know. Like you guys let us know. Sometimes I feel like when we talk about narratives with the team, it seems like something that we made up because we talk about it as if it's just conversational, but we don't necessarily take the extra steps to say exactly where we got it from every time. So what happens is that we get in like this regular conversation, like cadence, and it's just like, oh yeah, because, you know, Huff is the odd man out and blah, 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 blah. But we forget to say the original report was John Lynch came out and said that there's no guarantees that Huff is going to have his starting job when he gets back. He's going to have to compete for his job. And that's something that shocked everybody coming off that he said that during exit meetings, that Talanoa Hufanga is going to have to compete for his job when he gets back. So for us, it's not something that we made up. It's just us listening to the man and using like common sense. And really,
well, and using common sense and realizing that they were in the safety market all offseason and they were willing to pay multiple starting safeties, one of which ended up in Seattle on a 2-year, $12 million deal. That's starting safety money. The 49ers offered the same exact deal to him and Rayshawn Jenkins, and he chose Seattle. So if he had signed here or the Colts safety had signed here, they weren't here to be the third guy. They were here to be the starter. And so it looks like, and then they went and draft Malik Mustafa.
And then I'm about to say, I was waiting to say that. You know? And then they doubled down and went and got a safety. So that's not tea leaves, man. That's just deductive reasoning.
Yeah. And Daza, I don't think is like taking a shot by any means. He's just wondering like, hey, why, like, where is this coming from? And you're right, Coach. I mean, sometimes we do have to do a better job of like saying, hey, this isn't just an opinion. This is
like taking
an educated opinion based off of this, and this. And so those are the 2 reasons based off of what Lynch said, based off of what they've been sniffing around and what they drafted. It does seem for sure like Huff is the odd man out. Keenan says, hope y'all are buttering your biscuits tonight. We'll leave that to Ryan. That's a Ryan thing to do. Jesus says, can we sign Banks now before he does price himself out? Well, there's a concept that the 49ers don't often do, but yeah, I think that would be a great idea. I just don't know if he would be willing to play ball or if he would want to bet on himself. You do never know with these players. I have a feeling he would probably play ball, but maybe Banks would want to wait it out and just see, because he's coming off of a little bit of a down year, maybe by his standards. But I think that would be a great idea. We saw the one time that they did it recently was with Dre Greenlaw, and that sure has worked out in their favor. So it would be nice to get Banks on a nice little, mid-tier, low-tier starter guard money and allow him to play that out, because I think at the very least he'll always be that. And if he ends up being better, then you definitely got more bang for your buck. So I would definitely be with it. That being said, Coach, thank you so much for a great show, man.
Always,
made it almost an hour and a half. Good show. I'll be back tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow I got an interesting little lineup. I've got a show with Sunil. And then right after that, I'm going on with a Seattle Seahawks content creator. Most of you should know him, the Hawks Nest. Go check him out. He and I do shows every season, twice a season for Behind Enemy Lines. But he wants to get together for a little preseason view of what's changed with the 49ers and what's changed with the Seahawks and talk a little NFC West. So that'll be a lot of fun. You can tap in over there. And if you haven't done so, make sure that you subscribe to the second channel. Link is pinned to the chat. Coach and I are going to be live there every single Wednesday talking NFL, not 49ers. It's an NFL channel, so there won't be much 49er talk. That is reserved for here. But if you're just interested in a conversation between Coach and I or an all NFL channel, tap in over there. We'll be live there on Wednesday. And until tomorrow, peace.